Hello, everybody. Um, I know I'm a day late on this, and that's because I'm still taking a lot of this in from what had happened yesterday morning at 2 a.m. when the news got out that Mark has finally, you know, passed on from this world. And I can really feel and understand how everybody is feeling right now, whether there are people who were very close to him or kind of like a acquaintance friend, or just like knew him based off of like like what Mark was about, and like with him being a huge asset to the fandom. Like, I mean, to me and everybody, we consider Mark a legend, and Rodney too, because they are both the former founders, founding fathers of the fandom. They are the ones that started this whole fandom, and yeah, they had other people part of their group back then. I forget their names, but it goes as far back as, like, I know in somewhere, like when I was watching a documentary film from Ash Coyote, it was like in the late 1970s when they, Mark and Rod and, their group of friends, like, went to this science fiction convention, and they, that's where they pretty much introduced furry there, and it was mixed in with the science convention thing, and a lot of people like really liked it, and were getting into it, and that's when Mark and Rod decided to do a furry convention of their own called Conference, that took place in the 1980s. I don't know if it was early 80s or late 80s. And it's gone on for a while. So yeah, and then that's pretty much where it picked up. And I forget the location on where the conference was held. I know it was in Southern California, so it was definitely local around here somewhere. I don't know if it was in L.A. or wherever, but yeah, Mark and Rod. I mean, they are just both amazing for what they have done, and you know put a lot out for this fandom. I mean, this fandom would not be here if it weren't for them. You know, um, and the fact that furry isn't tied to anything. Furry is its own thing. It's like how Rod was explaining in the documentary, that you know how that how furries are, like, come about, like, you know taking real animals and giving them the ability to speak, have human characteristics, and basically become animal people. That is pretty cool, honestly. Very creative. I mean, it makes sense, like, to when we had all these animated movies back then. When I was growing up, I seen so many animated movies of anthropomorphic characters like Robin Hood, or an American Tale, like Goes West, or stuff like that, and or Fox and the Hound, and even though Fox and the Hound was more of a feral thing, but anthropomorphic wise, definitely like Robin Hood. and An American Tail, and or even cartoon shows like Tom and Jerry, and all that stuff, Looney Tunes, also that anthropomorphic, but so I feel like that's where the idea had come from, and maybe I mean, see, like at those times when those animations are created, I feel like the people that created those shows probably had no idea that this is like furry stuff. But that's where Mark and Rod came in to say, hey, this is furry. So, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, like, I didn't know a lot about that, like, I mean, back then when I came into the fandom, I was just, like, really, like, trying, I had to learn a lot about it and know what it was about, it's like, when I, first discovered furry, and I was doing a lot of browsing around on the internet back then. I mean, I and I think it even goes further than that. When I was like, I don't know, like 13 or 14 years old, when I came across anthropomorphic and feral stuff, like I was really huge on dragons, and I still kind of am, but I'm more into like wolves nowadays. And I would come across artwork and such, and I would see all these things, but see, I never knew what anthro was. I never knew what feral was. It's just, I was like, oh, this looks pretty interesting, And it was somewhere in high school where I came across by accident a site called For Affinity, and this was like in 2010. And I think I made an account on there, and that's just pretty much where things went, So I created my account. I was kind of starting to get active in it. I met a couple people online, and through liking art and such. And here I don't have a character. I used to go by a name called Mike 011 or Mike Fox. I guess I had to pick something out back then, so I just went with a fox just for the heck of it. And then, of course, over time my persona changed, and how I am now a Fulf, so yeah. So I really didn't like get started in the physical part of the community, like seeing people in person. Like, I met a group of furries like out of nowhere when I went to West Hollywood in 2012. Uh, in Halloween, and the very first suitor that came walking down the way was question mark, and I just went up to him. I kind of talked to him. And I said, "Are you a furry?" And he goes, "Yeah, And we just kind of connected from there. And then a bunch of other people came by. There was Cooney Raccoon. There was K Fox. There was Rally. There was a Whittle, which was a Raptor Scout. All these people, like, and I just was like so amazed. So that's where my thing just began, pretty much. My adventure is being in the furry fandom. And so I didn't know that there were meetups around and such. And so my old friend at Whittle, who isn't a furry anymore, but I've known him for a long time, and he told me about this local meetup in Garden Grove called the Prancing Skill Tier, and I said, oh, okay. So I went there for my first time, and it was in December of 2012, and I go there, and I was very, like full of anxiety at first, and kind of shy and nervous, and I could not believe that there were so many people at this meetup. I mean, There were over like 100 or so people. I saw some suits. I saw like just like everybody just being themselves and just doing what they love, and I'm just like it was a lot for me to take in. And so I go there, and uh, and I can only list so many things like what my experience was like. I met some people. I was just kind of telling them like, yeah, I'm new to this fandom. I'm getting into it. Blah blah. And um, you know, yeah. And had I known like who were the organizers of this event, and that was Mark and Rod, and you know, I I can't remember really when I first like introduced myself to them. It was probably a little later out through down the road, but because I've only gone to PS basically from December 2012 up to 2016, and I wish I could have gone more, but I feel with all due respect, one of the biggest reasons why I stopped going to PS is because I saw the meetup kind of decreasing down. Like it wasn't like how it used to be. From what I experienced, like I noticed a lot of people started going to other meetups, and or moving on. Like some people even moved out of state at that time. You know, and then one of the things that was so popular about it is when we used to go to the In and Out down the street from the PS, and we'd all kind of like migrate over there, but that wasn't a thing anymore. And one of the other biggest things is that about a major event that happened in 2016, September. Everyone remembers that murder that happened. That shook the whole entire community, and everybody was like just shooken up and scared or in fear. And I just felt like I wasn't gonna go to meetups that much anymore for a little while until things simmered down. And you know it's crazy because the PS and even my meetup alone, like I don't know if many people know, I used to host the Rose Bowl Fur Meet, and I'm the founders of that meetup. Rose Bowl meetup that's in Pasadena here. So I was doing that for a while, and my meetup got very like negatively impacted because the person behind the murder incident that happened in 2016 was a helper at my event. Had I known him and his so-called partner, like those two men, I'm not gonna say their names because everybody knows who they were, was associated with this one girl. I won't mention her name either. But it was a bunch of drama, and and all that's affiliated with this whole murder thing is just frightening. And that negatively impacted my meet, and I feel like that also negatively impacted the PS because those people were regular attendees to the PS as well. So, and of course at other meets too, you know. And it was really hard for a lot of people to not talk about the subject. Like, I mean, I know a lot of the event organizers always said, like, don't talk about this, But, you know, and I get it because, Rod and Mark, like, were so sick of drama. I mean, I don't blame them. I don't like drama either. It's so easy for everybody to steer up, like, negative drama. There's never positivity like, hardly any positivity these days. So, you know, um, everybody was just in fear, like just very scared, like what would happen next. I mean, and I feel like with like events like these has made, you know, um, the fandom really change in a way. Like I felt like the fandom was just almost going like downhill at the time, and you know, and I really say the furry fandom that's locally in California was kind of going down because of all these things. And I mean, you see it kind of nowadays. I mean, it seems to be sort of like kind of great and all that, but in my eyes, and people who have been around, for like a long time, like I'm talking 10 years or more, have seen it change. And it's a different vibe, it's a different crowd, and all that kind of sort of stuff. And it's just, and people will say that the fandom is just not like how it was, formerly, originated, like how it started, like what the real meaning of furry is about. And I feel like, you know, that's something that Mark and Rod like really tried so hard to really teach people in this fandom like what it's about, because basically the fandom is really found by artwork, you know artwork, imagination, comics, animation, all that stuff, stories. That's how the fandom started. And then people got into it like creating characters of their own, and then some people got fursuits and and did whatever. And yes, I remember in the documentary it was stated that the fandom has a bit of a sexual side to it, but and I mean there's sexual stuff in everything, okay? Like, it's just it's sort of within our nature. And but the fandom isn't really just all about sex and such. It's more of like sex is kind of like an interest. It's like it's very optional. Like, but I feel like how the fandom is today compared to how it was, it's more affiliated with more sexual content and more kinks and more fetishes, and and not to mention very politicized. And and that's something I know Mark and Rod was really like, with all due respect, kind of worried about what it would turn out to be in the future, because I know back then when I was attending meets, people would always say, don't talk about politics, don't bring in religion, and don't create drama. Very simple, leave it at that. But look what it is nowadays. I mean, the fandom has changed, and it's that's part of one of the reasons why I just don't go to a lot of these events anymore. And it's to me it's like my generation and the previous generations before me, like Mark and Rod's generation, and anybody who's like anyone as a furry who's older than like 30, 40, 50s, 60s, even 70s. It's just I just don't know what to think of it. I mean, I do. But it's just a trip. So, I hope that people really will, like, kind of gravitate towards this on what I'm saying. And, I feel there is still, hope for this fandom to really turn over a new leaf and kind of go back to its original roots. I mean, to really know what the purpose of this fandom is about. And people say, well, the fandom is what you make of it, you know, and it's all, and it is definitely about having fun and being imaginative and creative, but you know, and yeah, and that's kind of like what, you know, how Rod and Mark really, you know, basically like made this fandom to be about, you know, and it was just back then it was just so fun. And I mean, I'm not saying it's not fun today, but it's just very different. Like, you know, like, and this isn't just the furry fandom. I see this everywhere. Like, you got so many people doing a lot of streaming, you know, YouTubers, TikTokers, Twitch, all that stuff. You know, I mean, that's just not me. You know, I mean, I don't have time to be on that stuff, and nor do I want to. I mean, it's a lot of commitment, and you know, because you're dealing with all kinds of different people and crowds and all that sort of stuff. So it's just like, to me, it's not for me. And I'm the kind of person where it's like I want to be in your face and like be around you, be able to talk to you, you know, share some kind of physical like feeling, like a hug or like, you know, and even though I'm not the most affectionate person, but I am to those who I really, you know, feel comfortable with, like, you know, like, but normally if I do go up to someone, I'll give them a quick hug or whatsoever, but, you know, but that's kind of like how I was really brought up. Like, I, I may have social media platforms like, you know, Facebook and Twitter is really all I use, but I just go on there mostly for browsing around, you know, maybe liking something, maybe like reposting it, or maybe give it a comment. But I just don't do all this stuff like what other people do. I I don't I don't always have time to take pictures of myself, or, you know, let alone, I don't even fursuit that much. Like, I have a fursuit, but I outgrew the thing, and you know, I had thoughts about getting a new suit, but, you know, and same with getting a lot of artwork. And, you know, and that's the thing, like, you know, I know, like, people who come into this fandom are more into the furry stuff, but sometimes I feel like that that's what it's kind of seems to be more like, it's about furry, you know, like, some people kind of don't really seem to really know who you really are behind that art piece or behind that suit or whatever, you know, like. And that's the thing. Like, back then, the furry fandom used to be so welcoming, open arms, and doesn't judge or discriminate for who you are. Like, you know, whether you were like like, if you were like not furry, people would still welcome you otherwise. Like, they wouldn't like shun you or toss you to the side. Like, you know, um, for not wearing a suit or for, you know, whatever. Like, I mean, nowadays people like really expect you to like to have a suit, have tons of artwork, have all that stuff, you know. And that's why I have a lot of respect for Mark and Rod, because they were just open arms to everybody. They, you know, I can't tell you how many times they have had, you know, that PS like party that they would always have at their home. Can you imagine how many people they would allow into their place, and not knowing really who they are, or, you know, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of, like, you know, like, going past your comfort zone and trust, like, really putting down a lot of barriers to allow strangers in your home. You know, I mean, if I did something like that, I mean, I've had people in my place before, you know, but it was really people that I knew. And, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot to be a host and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, big props to Mark and Rod for, you know, doing that meetup for so many years. Honestly, I wish, honestly, you know, if I was born at a different time or whatsoever, to really have seen what the fandom was like way earlier. Like, I wish I had seen the fandom in the 2000s, or, you know, or whatsoever. But, you know, at the time in the 2000s, I was just practically a teenager. Like, I couldn't really go where I wanted to go. Like, I mean, I had to wait until I got out of high school to go do all these things, you know, that I wanted to do. So, yeah, despite that, I just wish I could have seen it sooner, but that's the way it goes. At least I got you know, a taste of it, of some good times that I did face, you know, throughout that period. I mean, yeah, PS was the most common meetup that I went to back then, and then let alone I went to other meets. I went to La Habra Fur Bowl that, you know, is no longer around. I used to go to the Furbarbecue back then a lot. I used to go to the beach meet back then a lot. I used to, you know, all these good meetups that happened back then in Southern California is now forever a memory. And I know some of these meets still go on. I mean, I can't really speak for the PS, because the PS is definitely going to be different with now with Mark being gone, even though Mark will forever be here in spirit with us. But it's not going to be the same. You know, it's going to be very different. I just have yet to know what PS will be like in the future. But as far as other meetups go, I don't know. It's, to me, it's making me feel like, you know, okay, this has changed. It's time to start over and maybe look into something else. You know. And I'm sorry, everybody. I know I feel like I'm just talking about myself, but you know, I mean, this all is relevant. I mean, you know, it just goes to show how many things I have seen throughout this fandom, and you know, I can't really particularly count the years from when 2020 started, because of the pandemic and such. Really just changed a lot of things, and really messed things up. And even though things are back to normal, like, I know meetups are happening again and such, but like I said, it's just different. I have not been to a furry convention since 2019. I haven't done anything like that. I mean, let alone, it's also because of my job too, and I've said this in my previous videos, that my job really takes a toll on me physically and mentally, to where, like, I don't have the energy to go out to a meetup on Saturdays, and let alone the meetups that happen, like, really aren't that exciting to me. It's like, I feel like most of these meets, like, are most of them are indoor meetups, and, you know, I feel like there isn't really much to do other than it's just more like social, you know, venues. And yeah, I mean, I mean, other than, you know, the PS was chill, but I'm looking at other things, like there's more club meetups, more bar meetups, more this, more that. You know, a lot of furries these days I've seen just pretty much love to party. And I mean, cool, if that's your thing, I mean, I don't care. It's not my thing. I'm not a guy that likes to party hard or get drunk or whatever, you know. And I mean, I do like to socialize, but I'm kind of the guy that wants to do, you know, other things. Like, I love to be active. I like to get into sports with that and athletics, and, you know, or do whatever, you know, just doing something that kind of keeps me busy, but I can also talk at the same time with somebody. But, you know, I don't know. I just don't really stand around or sit around that much. Like, that's something I do when I'm at home on my own time, just chilling out. But like, when I'm out, like, hanging out with people, I want to do things, you know. So I that's why I feel like a lot of these meets nowadays, what for just in, you know, me personally, I feel like they're just not that fun. you know. And you know what? Well, I think the only indoor place that I would find fun is like, you know, like a bowling meetup. And you know, it's interesting. I used to host a bowling meetup before, and but that bowling alley is no longer around. It pretty much shut down during COVID, and it has been shut down for a little while. And yeah, but things like that would be fun. Like I've always had thoughts about putting a bowling meet together, but you know, I just haven't really thought about that. So um, that would be mostly the best indoor for me because you're doing something, you know. So yeah. Anyway, guys, I've gone 30 minutes into this, but I just really wanted to give, you know, my sincere condolences to everybody who was very close to Mark, and and mostly to Rod, because Rod, I know you have been his very long partner, and I can really, you know, feel how heartbroken you are. And I'm just, all I can say is I'm just very sorry. And I know you wish that you could have had much more longer time with him. And I feel like he just has gone too soon. You know, I never would have guessed or known that Mark had the health issues that he did. And you know, it's like, again, it's like Mark really did not look that bad. He looked good, but cancer. Cancer, the thing that everybody hates. And I know some people who have died of cancer. My my dad had a, you know, close friend worker that, you know, sadly had liver disease and or cancer or something like that because he drank a lot and he wouldn't stop. And I think he was also obese and all that sort of stuff, you know. I can't tell you how many friends I've known now who have been a victim of like digestive issues and liver problems and or obesity or even diabetes and all that. And it's funny because I mean my sister's boyfriend has diabetes, and well, and but his condition was passed on because his dad died of diabetes, and so even though my sister's boyfriend is taking care of it and all that, who knows? But you know, this is something that I feel like a lot of us should take into consideration. I mean, you know, no matter what, we're all gonna get old. Getting old is mandatory. But while we all are alive, and you know, to learn from people who have passed on with really severe cases, is that we all got to take care of ourselves and just keep on going and staying productive and active, and just take care of our well-being. You know, our bodies are like our sanctuaries. You know, it's like saying, you know, you want to defend your your base from invaders. You know, and yeah, I mean, and because let alone with myself, I mean, I had to make a lot of changes and take care of myself too. Now, I never drank or smoke or anything like that, but you know, I know sometimes I've had poor eating habits, and um, like I got to learn to make my own meals at home and not eat out so much, and and so I'm taking care of that. I mean, because I have digestive issues too. I've been dealing with cramps and all these things. So yeah. But anyway, all I just want to say is Mark. He will be very much missed, and I wish I got to know him better. And you know, I'm sorry that I didn't continue going to the PS. Just a lot of things unfolded and changed, and let alone, I was going through a lot of my own issues and trips too back then. I mean, I was still very young. I was undergoing a lot of troubling moments. Like, I can't tell you how much trauma of my own I've steered up, and negativity. It's burned a lot of bridges with people, and I've lost, friends or potential friendships. And I don't know if there's people out there that still think of me the same in the past, or, just whatever they might think of me negatively. But all I can say is I've come a long way and grew and got better and all that. So, I mean, here I am now, just getting by. So, yeah. Anyway, anyone who has watched this, thank you for taking the time. And Rodney, I just want you to know I love you, man. And, you're an incredible person, and so is Mark. And I, myself, and everybody else can't be any more grateful for what you and Mark have done for this fandom and the local community. And you guys will forever be respected and cherished and valued. And I mean, you guys are legends. You guys just, it's amazing what you guys do. And I hope people will feed off of that and learn, and even take the time to go back to the history of how the fandom was started. And I believe that this fandom will continue to grow and get better. And just I guess do what's right or best or whatever, like, because I don't want to see this fandom decline. I don't want to see it go downhill or get really bad. I mean, I can't tell you with all the events that has happened back then, whether it was at conventions or local meetups and such. I mean, I don't know if you remember just most recently what happened at the beach meet last year, with that one suitor that, attacked another person, almost killing him. I mean, it's stuff like that. And when people, when the world sees what this kind of stuff is about, like, they almost think of furries as, like, bad, like trouble or whatever. And it's important for, things to get in ship shape, I mean, I want to see this fandom do better, and I'm sure you would want to see it too. So yeah. Anyway, to Mark, may he rest in peace, and forever we'll remember him and never forget him. And yeah, he'll be missed. I wish I got to see him one last time. And again, I'm honored that I got to meet him, even though that was so long ago. But yeah. All right, everybody. Take care.